Hello, everyone, and welcome back to One Piece of Insight, where we use analysis to help you achieve your TCG collecting goals. Today, we're going to talk about how close I think we are to the top of the One Piece TCG market and how different types of collectors and investors can navigate the current state of the market that we're in. I want to start by being perfectly clear of where I stand, of where I think we are. I think the market is incredibly overhyped, and I think that nearly everything right now is overpriced and that everyone needs to tread carefully. When we hit the top, people are going to rush to take profits. If you look at a lot of products right now in TCG Player, you'll notice that there's not a lot of inventory. The reason is because folks are waiting to try to time the top so that they can maximize their profits. But in all likelihood, there's a lot of people who are looking to do that. And so when that happens, there may be a rush to try to collect on those profits. So I think we need to be mentally prepared that when we do reach the top, it's possible the prices could fall quite quickly when people start to collect profits. Now, if you are in this collection and this hobby for the long term, that's actually a great thing. Market corrections are critical to any type of market. They're what prevent a bubble from forming and ensure that a market is able to sustain itself longer term. If you're in it for only short term gain, then I think you need to be very, very careful with how you proceed over the next couple weeks and possibly even months, because the time to collect profits, I think, is probably upon us. Whether the prices are going to fall 20%, 50%, it will vary a lot from product to product, and I don't pretend to know exactly what that's going to look like. But I think mentally you should be preparing yourself for that type of correction and how you're going to respond emotionally if a card that was once worth $1,000 is now worth $500. Now, the absolute top could come at any time, but I think the general consensus is that right now we have a couple things that are going to keep moving the market forward. We have the release of EBO3 on what I believe is February 20th, which is very hype and is going to continue to drive prices up. We also have the release of season 2 of the live action show, which I think a lot of people think will bring more people into the hobby. I do think that's true, but I do also think that that's probably going to be a little slower than people anticipate, from people jumping from just watching the show into actually going out and buying these incredibly expensive cards. I think the key thing to keep in mind here, though, is that if everybody expects that we're going to enter a lull after the release of season 2, then no one's going to want to be the last one left holding the bag. So they're going to start trying to take profits before then. So the question is, how early does the profit taking start? And so this really comes down to a question of where you fall on the spectrum of what you prioritize. If you are just an investor and you're just looking for short-term gains, now is the time to take profit. Or in the next couple of weeks. I would not wait. I think at this point, you are more likely to lose money on anything you buy right now than you are to gain money. If you're in it as a long-term investor, I think the story is a little bit different. I think, this is probably a period where you want to hold. I do think things, particularly sealed, are likely to continue to appreciate over the next 3 to 5 years. But I wouldn't necessarily be buying a ton of new product. I would wait for a dip. If you're a collector, I think things are much more tricky because, giving a collector an answer that says just don't buy anything for the next 3 months until prices go down isn't really very satisfying for somebody who wants to be involved in the hobby. I look at cards all day. There are cards I want to buy all day, and I'm constantly trying to figure out how I can engage in the hobby in a way that's not going to cause me financial hardship, as I know many of you do as well. And so figuring out how to navigate that, I think, is really important. So my first recommendation, if you're in that bucket, is to look at your collection and ask, what are the pieces that I don't really care that much about? If I bought a card because I liked it and it was $10 and now it's $70, is it really worth $70 to me? If I could get $50 or $60 by selling it, would I rather have that? Would I rather be able to save that money to buy a card I care more about, if and when the prices do correct? I would be looking at your collection critically. I know I just did that over the last couple weeks. I've sold a couple pieces that I didn't care nearly as much about, BGS 10, Nami Treasure Rare, as well as some other SPs that I want to buy in a higher grade down the road. And so I think looking critically at your collection is always a good idea, but I think now where there's a lot of opportunity to take profits, I think it's a really, really strong practice. I also think that if you absolutely love a card, you absolutely have to have it in your collection, and you want to buy it now, I think the question that you should be asking yourself is, if the price of this falls 50% over the next couple months or over the next year, how am I going to feel about the card? Am I going to feel so sick about the money that I've lost that I'm not going to enjoy it anymore? And if that's how you think you're going to feel, then don't buy it. If you're perfectly fine with that, then go ahead and buy it. You know, my philosophy that I try to live by is buy what you love and buy it at a price that you're comfortable with, and that you're always going to be happy with. And if the price goes up, great. You made money on something that you love. If you ever decide to sell it, you now have more options. And if the price goes down, then oh well, you still have the thing that you loved, right? So ultimately, if you're in this for collecting purposes, I think there are smart ways to continue to engage in collecting when you're in a market like this. But I think part of that is also looking at your collection constructively to say, what do I not need? What am I willing to sell? And alongside, what are the things that I feel like I absolutely need to have? So just to show a couple little pieces of data before we close out the video of why I think we might be reaching the top of the market, we've already started to see some box prices go down. Now, typically in my experience with TCGs, sealed product is a leading indicator as opposed to singles, that they tend to go up first and they tend to go down first, and the singles tend to follow one way or the other. And so if box prices start to go down, then I think we should expect singles to go down in the future as well. So just to quickly look at a couple box prices to test this theory. We have Emperors in the New World, OP09. This was at a peak of almost $700 a couple weeks ago, and now you can buy them for around $620. Obviously, that's not a huge difference in price, but it is notable that the price has started to go down, indicating that a lot of people are starting to take profits. Similar here as well, we have the Anime 25th Anniversary Collection. At one point, this was selling for $630, all the way down now to $530, which I think for a product that doesn't sell all that often is actually quite a large amount of movement. We also have OP14, which, while it's not down that much, is down from its all-time peak at over $270, all the way down to $240. And then the final piece of evidence is that EBO3, which is, while still incredibly overpriced at $475, is down from a high of almost $700. I think this is a time for caution. I also think that, as I said before, a correction is a good thing. We should be looking forward to it, particularly those of us who've been in this for a while. I think have felt a little bit pushed out by a lot of these prices. So a return closer to normal, I think, would be good for most people. And I look forward to that happening. So I wanted to have this frank conversation with you to let you know that, while I'm going to create content in the future that says, here's what I think you should buy, you should understand that in the context of this market is crazy expensive. And the only reason I'm recommending things to buy is because I know that if you're passionate about these things, you are looking for things to buy, and there are smart ways to do it, and there are less smart ways to do it. And so we'll be focusing on how we can maximize the way that we're getting value out of our funds as we build our collection. So with that, thank you for watching the video. If you find this content helpful, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. If you have other ideas of things that you'd like to see, please hit me up in the comments. I'm always looking for ideas of how I can make content that you would find valuable. So thanks again for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.